There's something quietly magical about walking down a garden path that feels like it was made with love rather than money. Imagine the grass brushing against your ankles, the air heavy with the scent of earth and wildflowers, and at your feet a trail gently framed by bottles no longer seen as waste but reborn in pastel shades. Lilac, sky blue, buttercream, soft rose, colors that whisper, not shout, yet carry enough warmth to brighten every step. This pastel bottle path fence is not about perfection. Some bottles lean slightly. Others catch the sunlight more than their neighbors, but together they create a harmony that feels alive. Children often stop to trace the cool plastic with their fingers, while bees rest briefly on the mint-hued caps, as if they too are curious about this playful boundary. More than decoration, this path serves as a guide, a gentle invitation to wander deeper into the garden, to pause, to breathe, and to remember that even what was once thrown away can hold a place of pride. When sunlight pours through in the late afternoon, the bottles glow like lace edging a summer dress, soft and imperfect, yet undeniably beautiful. This fence is not just a boundary. It's a reminder that joy often comes from the simplest acts of care. At first glance, it looks like a painter has brushed the garden with every shade of the spectrum. But lean closer and you'll see it's not paint at all. It's a wall built from bottles once forgotten, now standing proudly in radiant color. Reds, oranges, yellows, greens, blues, and violets line up like a choir, catching the morning sun and scattering across the grass in shifting patterns. There is a certain joy in this kind of transformation. Instead of concrete or wood, the wall glows with light and transparency. On bright days, it paints your garden in soft gradients, as if the flowers themselves are reaching for the colors dancing on their petals. Marigolds seem warmer here. Delphiniums rise taller, and the vines twist upward as though eager to touch the rainbow itself. Beyond being an eye-catching feature, this wall serves another role. It softens boundaries. Instead of blocking out the world, it welcomes light, turning a simple corner into a space that feels alive. And as evening falls, the last rays of the sun slip through the wall, painting the grass gold and violet one last time. A reminder that even waste can shine when given another chance. Step beneath it, and the garden suddenly feels like a secret waiting to be told. The archway is simple, bottles strung from thin wires, swaying gently in the summer wind. Yet transforms the space into something magical. Some bottles are painted, glowing softly in amber and rose, while others are left clear, catching the sun like drops of morning dew frozen in midair. Together, they tinkle faintly, a fragile chorus of color and sound that greets anyone who walked below. What makes this project special is its ability to change with the day. In the morning, sunlight pours through, scattering reflections across the soil. By afternoon, the bottles clink together, making music with the wind. And in the evening, when the air is still, they hang quietly, glowing softly in the last light. Each shift feels like a new performance. Guests often pause here, taking longer than they expect, because something about walking through an arch feels like crossing into another world. This is not just an archway. It is a welcome, a reminder that every entrance can be made from wonder. There's a corner of the garden where the wind never feels alone. Here, small bursts of color turn slowly, then faster, then pause, like laughter caught on a string. These are bottle cap wind spinners, born from the simplest of scraps, and yet carrying the spirit of play. Each cap, once discarded without thought, now catches the breeze with joy. Painted by hand in yellows, blues, reds, and greens. When the wind rises, they dance. Spirals blur, circles shimmer, and no two spinners move the same way. One twirls quickly, another trembles gently, while a third gleams quietly in the sunlight. Together, they create a rhythm that makes the garden feel alive. What makes these spinners magical isn't their perfection, it's their freedom. They are small, imperfect, sometimes clumsy, but always cheerful, just like the garden itself. Each turn of the cap is a note in the garden's quiet song, reminding us that even waste can be reborn into joy. A garden with spinners doesn't just grow. It listens, it laughs, and it learns how to play. In the heart of the garden, where tall grass whispers and lavender leans in, there lies a tunnel that sparks laughter before a single step is taken. It isn't made of stone or wood, but bottles once empty and overlooked. linked together. They form a clear passage that curves like a secret pathway waiting for curious hearts. Sunlight pours through the plastic walls, bending and scattering like a prism. The tunnel glows softly, shifting with each hour, golden at dawn, bright at noon, and gentle in the late afternoon. Inside, every movement feels like an adventure. The beauty lies not only in play, but in perspective. From inside, children see the garden differently. Blades of grass stretch tall, flowers hover like giants, and the sky above becomes a framed picture of light. This tunnel is more than recycled plastic. It is imagination made solid, a reminder that magic does not always need to be bought. Sometimes, it only takes what we already have, linked together with care. Beneath the shade of a rose bush, where mint leaves spill over worn clay pots and bees wander lazily, a small table waits. At first glance, it glitters as though sprinkled with jewels. But lean closer, and you see the beauty comes not from gemstones or glass, but from bottle shards once cast aside. Each fragment, once sharp and forgotten, has been softened by paint and care. Turquoise shines beside coral, buttercream rests against deep green, and together they form a mosaic that feels like sunlight captured on a surface. This table is not just furniture, it is memory. Every shard tells a story of something once used and forgotten, now part of the surface where tea is poured. Conversations are shared, and evenings linger longer than expected. And so the table becomes more than a place to sit. It becomes a reminder that brokenness can be rearranged into beauty, and that even the smallest pieces can hold the weight of a story worth keeping. In the softest corner of the garden, where basil leans into sun and thyme spills gently across the soil, tiny blossoms bloom. But these are not flowers born of roots. They are hand-painted bottle caps, cut and shaped into blooms, each one carrying a name: mint, rosemary, lavender, oregano. Suddenly, the garden speaks, not just in scent and color, but in words. There's a quiet joy in knowing exactly what grows where, especially when the markers themselves are crafted from things once destined for the trash. The effect is simple yet profound. No more guessing which sprig belongs to thyme and which belongs to oregano. Instead, the garden carries its own map, each label like a gentle bloom that never fades. And beyond function, there is beauty. These little flowers gnawed with the wind, catching sunlight in soft reflections. They remind us that even the smallest discarded objects can carry meaning again. There is a hidden corner of the garden where light does something unexpected. A mirror stands there, tall and quiet, yet alive with color. Around its edges, shards of painted bottles shimmer like fragments of memory. Turquoise against coral, buttercream beside mint. The frame is not polished or perfect, but when the sun touches it, the entire space feels deeper, as if the garden has doubled itself. Mirrors in a garden are a trick of wonder. They do not only reflect, they expand. Place one among the herbs, and suddenly the time seems endless. Lean it against roses, and the blooms multiply in a secret echo. Here, every breeze looks stronger. Every color feels richer. Every small moment becomes two. This mosaic mirror is not just decoration. It is devotion, a promise that even what was broken can make beauty twice as strong. In one corner of the garden rises a tower, not of stone or brick, but of bottles once emptied and forgotten. From each layer, green bursts forth. Plump succulents with their geometric leaves, some glowing with silver dust, others tinged with rose at the tips. The tower stands quietly, catching sunlight from morning until dusk, offering a vertical story of life rebuilt. Succulents thrive here because they ask so little yet give so much. What makes this project special is its rhythm. In the morning, dew gathers on the leaves, shimmering against the plastic. By noon, the succulents bask quietly, their patterns sharp in the sun. And as the evening falls, shadows stretch long across the tower, softening its edges, making it look almost dreamlike. This succulent tower is more than vertical space. It is proof that even the simplest materials, stacked with patience, can grow into something timeless. There's a path in the garden that feels almost alive, as if it has been kissed by wings. Look closely and you'll see them. Butterflies not made of feathers in flight, but of bottle caps arranged with patience and care. Reds curve into oranges, Blues melt into violets, and together they form mosaics that flutter without moving, marking each step you take. Walking here feels like being led by gentle guardians. The butterflies rest on the soil, catching the light in unexpected ways. What makes this project so magical is the way it transforms the ordinary. A plain dirt path becomes a gallery of color and shape, a trail where children stop to admire and guests lean down to touch. Even when the garden is quiet, the butterflies seem to hum with life, holding joy in their stillness. This path is more than decoration. It is a celebration of imagination, a reminder that beauty can emerge in the smallest pieces, and that even bottle caps can carry the memory of flight. At the foot of an old tree, where petals drift like confetti and moss gathers in quiet corners, a tiny house rests. Its windows peek shyly from painted plastic. Its door leans slightly ajar, and a chimney curls as if smoke might rise at any moment. This is no ordinary house, but a fairy dwelling crafted from bottles, twigs, and imagination, a place where stories linger even when no one is watching. Children discover it first. They kneel in the soil, their whispers soft, as though careful not to disturb unseen residents. By day, the fairy house glimmers in the sunlight, blending into the garden as though it has always belonged. At dusk, it takes on a different kind of magic, shadows pooling at its door, petals catching the last light like lanterns. The fairy house does not need to be perfect. Its beauty lies in suggestion, the possibility that something small and wonderful lives quietly among us. Along the garden wall, where the wood warms beneath the sun and shadows stretch long, bottles once empty now cradle life. Basil leans outward in a rush of green. Mint spills over in fragrant cascades, and thyme nods gently in the breeze. These are not ordinary planters, but bottles mounted with care, turning the plain wall into a living tapestry of flavor and color. The beauty of this idea lies in its practicality. Space is no longer a limit when the walls themselves become gardens. Morning brings light that filters through the plastic, warming the soil and coaxing the herbs to grow fuller. By midday, butterflies and bees wander here, drawn to the subtle blossoms. The result is more than vertical greenery. It is a garden that greets you at eye level, reminding you that nourishment can grow anywhere, even from what was once waste. As the sun sinks low and the first shadows stretch across the garden, the air changes. Jasmine stirs with its evening fragrance, and soft lights begin to flicker among the branches. They are not stars nor expensive lanterns, but bottles once discarded, now glowing in ruby, emerald, and sapphire tones. Each one cradles a flame or a gentle bulb, swaying slightly with the night breeze, turning the garden into a place of quiet wonder. Colored bottle lanterns carry a magic all their own. During the day, they hang like ornaments, catching the sunlight in flashes of color. But as dusk arrives, they transform. The bottles glow like fruit ripened in secret, casting warm reflections on leaves and paths, soft enough to calm, bright enough to guide. A simple meal beneath them feels like a celebration. And so the garden glows, not because of wealth or design, but because of care. Just beyond the garden gate, where footsteps slow and air feels sweeter, a sign leans gently as though bowing in greeting. Its wood is weathered, softened by seasons, the words carved not in boldness but in quiet invitation. Welcome to the garden. Around its edges, bottlenecks bloom like glass blossoms, each one holding a sprig of lavender, a daisy, or a wildflower picked that morning. This sign is not grand. It does not shout. Instead, it whispers, offering a pause to those who enter, a reminder to move gently, to see more closely, to breathe more deeply. The bottlenecks, once part bottles thrown aside, now cradle life again. Every guest who enters feels welcomed not only by words, but by living blooms. This vintage garden sign does more than mark a space. It sets a tone. It tells every visitor to hear, beauty grows not in extravagance, but in small acts of reuse, patience, and love. Along the edge of the patio, flower pots gather like quiet guardians of bloom. But these are no ordinary vessels. Their edges glint with story. Shards of bottles once discarded, now arranged in mosaics that catch the sunlight and turn simple clay into something extraordinary. Turquoise gleams beside coral, yellow brightens against mint, and together they form frames that feel both playful and proud. There's poetry in this act of reuse. What was once broken and unwanted becomes the very thing that outlines new life. The herbs and flowers within seem to glow brighter, as if they understand the care surrounding them. These pot frames remind us that beauty doesn't depend on newness. Sometimes it is built from fragments, from pieces gathered and arranged with care, proof that even what is broken can still hold, protect, and frame life. Among the flowers, where the air hums softly with bees and the scent of lavender drifts in waves, a sculpture stands. At first it looks like art, tall, graceful, a wine bottle gleaming in the sun. But look closer, and you see movement. Sparrows hopping, finches fluttering, tiny beaks dipping into seeds. The bottle, once emptied and forgotten, has become a feast for the sky. There's something profoundly satisfying about turning waste into welcome. Birds that once passed overhead now pause, resting their wings to eat and sing. Their presence adds another layer to the garden's rhythm. By morning, the bottle catches the first light, its glass glowing softly. By afternoon, it hums with life as birds gather. The feeder is more than craft. It is connection, a reminder that even in giving a second life to glass, we also give life to the world around us. Step closer to the garden's secret spot, and you'll find a curtain that seems stitched from light itself. Strung across two weathered posts, bottle bottoms glow in ruby, amber, emerald, sapphire, and violet. When the breeze stirs, they sway gently, scattering shifting patterns of color on the ground. Walking through feels like stepping into a dream where sunlight has learned how to dance. The curtain does more than decorate. It creates a threshold, a gentle division between one space and another. Morning light paints the curtain softly, like watercolor. At noon, it gleams sharp and bright, each piece glowing like a gem. The curtain is not expensive, nor is it perfect, but it carries magic. It is proof that even what once held soda or water can now hold wonder, refracting summer into a rainbow that never fades. In the shade of a tree where geraniums spill from pots and rosemary leans in with fragrance, a bench waits. It looks ordinary at first, a place to sit, a place to rest. But lean closer, and the legs tell a brighter story. Bottles, once tossed aside, are now filled with painted sand, stacked in colors that spiral and swirl like a secret rainbow sealed in glass. The bottles shine quietly in the daylight. Reds layer over yellows, blues settle beneath greens, each color shifting as sunlight slips through. The bench is not just a piece of furniture. It is a celebration of patience and play. By afternoon, it becomes a gathering place. Children climbing on it, adults pausing with a cup of tea. This creation proves that comfort doesn't have to be carved from wealth. Sometimes it rises from simple bottles, a handful of sand, and a willingness to turn waste into a resting place full of joy. In the middle of the garden, where roses stretch toward the sun and ivy winds its slow climb, stand a frame. At first glance, it seems misplaced, as though someone has hung a picture where no wall exists. Yet this frame does not hold canvas or paper. It holds the garden itself. And around its edges, bottles once forgotten now shimmer with color, turning every view into a living painting. Step closer and the scene changes. Through the frame, a bed of lavender looks like a portrait. A corner of herbs becomes a still life. Even the sky, with its drifting clouds, appears as art. The beauty lies in how the frame changes with time. In the morning, it captures mist rising over the soil. By afternoon, it glows with vibrant flowers and darting bees. This garden picture frame is not just decoration. It is perspective made tangible, reminding us that every corner of life can be seen as art, if only we choose to frame it. At the edge where soil meets lawn, a quiet line of guardian stands. Bottles, turned upside down and pressed firmly into the earth, form a border for flowers they protect. Each bottle is painted in shades of green like moss, lavender like sky at dusk, and yellow like the morning sun. Together, they frame the bed not with walls of stone, but with color and care. The bottles sit shoulder to shoulder, creating both boundary and invitation. The effect is both practical and poetic. The edging keeps soil neatly contained, defines the space for flowers, and adds a splash of charm visible from every angle. In the morning, dew beads across the bottles like strings of pearls. By afternoon, Sunlight scatters across the painted surfaces, making them glow softly. This edging is not just decoration. It is proof that even the simplest cast-offs can become both frame and foundation. In the quietest corner of the garden, a tree whispers more than rustling leaves. From its branches dangle small bottles, each one holding a secret. Some carry notes folded into tiny scrolls, tied with ribbons. Others cradle pressed flowers or sprigs of dried herbs. When the breeze stirs, the bottles sway gently, catching light and scattering it like a dance of glass and memory. There is something timeless about this creation. It recalls old traditions of tying wishes to trees. Yet here, bottles once discarded become vessels of dreams. Children scribble messages before slipping them inside. Visitors often pause, reading the tiny notes, leaving their own behind. This project does more than decorate a tree. It transforms into a keeper of stories, a gathering of voices. The bottles remind us that even in silence, our hopes can hang gently in the air. At the edge of the garden, where paths meet and time seems to slow, stand a gate unlike any other. It is not carved from oak nor forged from iron, but pieced together from bottles interlocked with patience. Clear bottles shimmer with light. Green ones glow like moss, and together they form a threshold that feels less like a barrier and more like a welcome. Walking through this gate is an experience in itself. In the morning, it gleams softly with dew. By afternoon, the sun paints it in shifting hues. And at dusk, it glows in muted tones, as though holding the memory of the day within its walls. This cottage-style gate is more than recycled art. It sets the tone for everything that lies beyond. It whispers to visitors, "Here is a place where waste becomes wonder, where small acts of care build beauty." Time in a garden flows differently. It is not rushed, not measured by deadlines or alarms, but marked by blooms opening, shadows shifting, and the slow hum of bees. And in this space, a clock stands, not of gold or glass, but of bottle caps, painted in bright tones, each one holding a number, each one carrying a second chance. The clock face rests against a wooden board, its hands shaped like vines curling gently across the hours. Reds, blues, greens, and yellows sparkle where the caps are fixed. By morning, sunlight glints across the caps. At noon, their colors shine brightest. And in the evening, when shadows lengthen, the clock reminds you not of urgency, but presence. This bottle cap clock is not only a way to tell time, it is a reminder to savor it, to slow down, to notice, and to let the garden set the pace of your days. Beneath the pergola, the air is cooler, softer. Above, light bends through a mosaic of half bottles, each one painted in delicate tones of rose, mint, and lavender. The roof doesn't block the sun completely. It filters it, scattering gentle shadows that dance across the table, the herbs, the floor. Sitting here feels like resting beneath petals, as though the sky itself has bloomed into shelter. This floral shade roof is more than practical. It is an art of transformation. Half bottles, cut neatly and fitted side by side, overlap like scales or flower petals. Morning tea beneath this roof feels different, gentler, slower. Guests pause here longer than anywhere else, because the roof does more than cover. It embraces. It tells a quiet story, that even cast-off plastic can hold the sky, and in doing so, turn an ordinary seat into a sanctuary. At the edge of the garden, a greenhouse rises, not from glass and steel, but from bottles once forgotten. Sunlight pours through its patchwork walls, scattering in shades of lavender, mint, rose, and buttercream. Inside, basil and chamomile sprout eagerly, nurtured by warmth and light, filtered through plastic transformed into something new. There is a quiet poetry to this structure. Each bottle, once empty, now holds more than air. Together, they form a shelter where seedlings take root. The walls are imperfect, each curve and seem visible, but it is precisely that imperfection that gives a greenhouse its character. It feels alive, stitched together by hand and heart. This greenhouse is more than structure. It is a testament that with imagination, even the most ordinary bottles can hold the power to grow dreams. From the branches of a tree, small vases sway gently in the breeze. Painted in soft pastel tones, mint, lilac, rose, buttercream, they carry the brightness of summer in their curves. Each bottle, once empty and overlooked, now cradles flowers, daisies nodding, lavender spilling, sprigs of wild mint glowing in the sun. Together, they form a chorus of color and scent, turning the air into something almost lyrical. These hanging vases bring beauty to the garden in the simplest of ways. They catch the light, scattering across petals and leaves. The effect is transformative. A plain pergola becomes a canopy of blossoms. A quiet corner becomes a stage of colors that shift with every breeze. These vases do more than hold blooms. They hold a reminder that joy often hangs in small, simple acts of care, and that beauty is always within reach if we dare to create it. In the garden, shapes begin to rise, circles, spirals, even the outline of a bird in flight. At first glance, they seem like sculptures, but lean closer and you'll see the secret. Bottles fitted together, fastened around simple wire frames, waiting patiently for vines to claim them. These are topiary forms, crafted not from costly materials, but from what was once waste, now guiding living plants into art. The beauty of topiary is in the slow unfolding. A bottle structure set today may look bare at first, but as weeks pass, green shoots climb upward, curling around every edge, softening plastic into leaves and blossoms. Over time, the bottles vanish into foliage, and what remains is a living sculpture. What makes this project special is its patience. It teaches us to wait, to watch, to celebrate transformation, not in a moment, but over a season. The bottles begin as waste, the frame begins as empty, but together they grow into a story, a sculpture that is both handmade and alive.